Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talk Sex podcast with me, your host, Mor Yelvington of More Transform Your Reality, where I help you step out of trauma and reclaim your power. I'm so excited that you are here with us today because I have the beautiful Monique here with me. Hey, Monique,
Hey, Mor.
I'm so happy to have you back. And I'm so excited for this conversation because we're going to talk about things that we don't talk about. And I'm really excited. So before we dive in, why don't you introduce yourself? I know you were on before, but I'm so happy to have you back. For those of us out there that don't know you, what do you do in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I am excited to be here with you, and I am thrilled to talk about this content with your guest because I believe it's so important that we share this information. So, first, thanks for having me. Secondly, I'm a mind body coach, and I work with families to end pain crises in their environment, in their homes, in their lives. So, uh, we're just trying to stop the pain in the family.
Yes. So do you think sex would be considered pain in the family?
Oh my goodness, there's so much stigma and trauma and drama around pain and intimacy and sex and all those things tied up together. It's a big deal. So I am really excited to talk about this stuff with you.
Me too. And so I think the first thing we were going to talk about was, what age do you even start talking to kids about sex, right? If you're dealing with families, I'm sure this comes up a lot. So when is there a good time? When is the time? How do we do it?
Yeah. So, I think every family is going to be a little bit different, but you have to take into consideration things like if you have a child that is, 3, 4, 2 years old and mom gets pregnant again, right? We know that there's another baby coming into the picture. They're curious. They want to know things. They ask questions. On the other hand, you might have a child that is the youngest child or the only child. And that might not even be something that comes across for several years. But we have to really understand what are our kids hearing on the television? What are they hearing at school? What are they hearing in the grocery store? It's not just your home safe environment. It's all around us in the world. And we have to be really mindful about that, especially now with social media being so predominant and television being, just really honest. TikTok, YouTube, all that stuff is there. And we're exposed to things at a younger age now than what we were in the past.
Way younger. Like I read it, it's by the age of 8, a child, if they have access to social media, will watch porn by the time of 8 years old at this point. And so I feel like it's such a strong thing to talk about and really lay the groundwork for what you want to portray to your kids because what they're going to see online is going to start creating images and ideas in their head. And if we don't talk about it, what is that going to create for them?
Right. So I remember being a young child and finding dirty magazines at a house, right? And had no idea what this was, had never been exposed to any type of pornography or anything like that. And I was shocked to see what I saw in a magazine. And I was young. I was probably 7, 8, 9. And you have to think about the brain at that age. So the child's brain waves begin to change, which means they're not just feeling. Now they're starting to have a little bit of a voice, and the dynamic between the parent and the child change. So I think for sure by 8 or 9, conversations have to be had just because of that in general. And look, you don't have to go into details, or you can get super scientific. Like I remember my kids asking a question at the dinner table one night. My kid says, "What is humping?" And we all like just start choking, on our food, and we're stopped. And I said, "Okay, everybody, put your food down." And I said, "Where did you hear that?" And of course, they told me. And I said, "Do you really want to know this? Because I'll get scientific. We'll go on the computer. We'll talk about babies. We'll talk about where babies come from." And I gave them factual words. I gave them the real name. We talked about vaginas. We talked about penises. We didn't call it a cookie or a rooster or any of that silly stuff. Like we were really honest about it. And my kid goes, "Oh, that's gross." And I was like, "Okay, great. Now I've done my job." We went on to the next topic, but it's real. Kids
Yeah.
come home, they say things, they hear things, they pick things up, and it is our job as parents not to be embarrassed, not to have shame about it, not worry about who they're going to tell, but to talk to them about real life and what happens so that they can be prepared and take care of themselves.
Yes, I think that's so important. And also so they know what's going on. They don't feel like in the dark. Because kids, if you don't tell them, they'll go find it. And the
Right.
people that they get it from is probably not going to be how you want them to know, right? And so I think it's so important to have these conversations and really open up the door and really notice how you feel about it. I think the biggest block is us and how we react and how we respond and what we say and how we deal with our own embarrassment, our shame. I can share with you that my daughter, she got her period and she wanted to go swimming. And so we have to talk about tampons. And, she's very, not really, we could talk about bodies. She knows how all the things happen. But I just told her, if you've never had anything go up your vagina, it's going to feel very different. And so I pretty much have to be like, you want to go explore and feel and make sure that,
Yeah.
and really having those conversations. And even though for me, it felt awkward a little bit, right? And for her, it felt kind of awkward. I had to step into my power, into my leadership mom zone and really walk her through it. And I feel like that really empowered her versus me being like, here's a tampon, go figure it out, which I think a lot of us, if it wasn't our moms, maybe our girlfriends, right? Take us to it, right? It has
Yeah.
to be a safe place.
Well, I commend you for that. I think that's great because you're right. It is uncomfortable, but how uncomfortable is it for them to go out and explore on their own and come back with being pregnant or diseases or come back with something that bad happened to them, So yes, it's uncomfortable, but pick your uncomfortable. Like, do you
Exactly.
want to be an uncomfortable, teen mom, teen grandma, or do you want to be an uncomfortable 5 minute hard conversation where you fumble over your words? And I think honesty and transparency are the way to go. Proper words, proper body, anatomy, all of that plays a really big role in what our children are going to take forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like staying in a question is key. When my kids just started asking questions, it was when I got pregnant with my third, and my daughters were like, how did you get pregnant? How did the baby get in there? Right. And so we had to have, but I asked them first, like, what do you think? How do you think the baby got in there? With all that
Mm,
conversation, how do you think this happened? To see where their mind even goes, right? Where does it take them? And kind of follow along their lead. And for a long time, it was pretty spot on, right? And so
yeah.
I was just kind of supporting their initiate. And for me, that felt a lot more comfortable in the beginning when I wasn't really sure what kind of words to use and how to really talk about it. It was kind of letting them lead it, which was great.
I love that too. And I think you hit a great point. And going back to children being feelers, not thinkers, right? So they have a sense, a sensation versus knowledge. So giving them a bunch of words doesn't necessarily make sense, but if they can feel their way through whatever's going on, they're probably going to have a better response. You're going to have a better connection with them. And ideally, that's what we want to support them and connect with them so that we can heal whatever past nonsense has happened in our past generations.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Because we need that. It's like
Yeah.
we're definitely doing that work, right? We're fixing the trauma, we're stopping the cycle. That's
Yeah.
us. So, so talking about traumas, like if your kid walked in on you while you're having sex with your husband, how much trauma are they going to carry from this experience?
Yeah. You know, I don't, here's the thing with trauma. As a trauma specialist, I'm a somatic trauma specialist. It's one of the things I work with, and this comes up a lot. Trauma is not the event. Trauma is not the child seeing two adults on top of each other. That's not the trauma. The trauma is the kid running away to their room and not knowing how to process what they just saw. So your job as a parent is to go in and give them that safe space. Assure them that whatever was happening was an act of love, that if this is where you talk about where babies come from, plug it in, depending on their age, but leaving a kid alone to try to process, especially if there's a lot of noises or some crazy stuff going on. I know some of y'all get wild. Good for y'all. Um, but like we think that the act is the trauma. It's not the trauma. They have to feel safe to discuss. They have to feel safe to go, I don't know what that just was, but y'all were making a lot of noise. It scared the heck out of me. Or you yell at them, get out of the room, right? Now you've shocked their nervous system. They might not even know what's going on. But as parents, we make these assumptions. So Always, 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 hey, 1 second, mama's coming out. Give me a minute. I'll meet you in the hallway, whatever. Get up, put your clothes on, go talk to your child. If they have questions, answer them as honestly as possible. But it's not the event. Don't send them off. Don't yell. Don't scare them. Go connect with them,
Right.
no matter
I
what
love
age.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I love how you said that it's not the event, it's how we process. And so much of what we go through, so many times I feel like we aren't even aware that we're not processing because when trauma happens, so many times you just kind of disconnect and then you don't even know what you have to process. And so a lot of the times when this stuff comes up, you're like, why do I have all this anxiety or fear or stress about this? It's because they're an unresolved trauma that you didn't actually get to process. So being
Yeah.
that tool for your parent, for your kid is so important.
Well, I think going back to what you said again, ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how do you feel?
Right.
Right? Well, I feel scared. Oh, yeah. Tell me more. You're scared because? Yeah, I can understand how that looks scary, right? Like you validate where they are instead of going, "Oh no, it wasn't scary. It was fine." Like now you're teaching a child to shove down their emotions, their fears, their stories, and that is where pain manifests. When you don't express what you have going on and you suppress it or repress it or brush it under the rug, it will show up in your life somewhere later on. And that trigger is a trauma response. That survival is a trauma response. The physical pain is a trauma response. So we could go way into the weeds with this conversation, but for the sake of that, I'll just keep it there. So communicate, communicate, communicate. Ask them how they feel, validate their experiences, and break it down as simply and honestly as you possibly can. And parents, practice this. Talk to your spouse about it. Talk to other parents about it. Um, Contact, one of us. Like
Right.
we've got plenty of resources and things to do this.
Yes, 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 yes. Be the people that stop the cycle. I'm all
Yes.
about this. To stop the cycle. We don't need to create another generation of trauma response people. We're
No,
done with
no.
that. We're moving to 5D. We need some more
It's
connected people.
exhausting. It's just exhausting. Let's just cut away and be done with it. So, uh,
Yes.
good stuff.
Okay, so here we are, right? We've been married, we're in our 40s, maybe our 50s, and sex is different, our bodies are different, we are different, we have different needs, we have different wants. And it seems like women, they tend to want more sex the older they get versus men, and the stigma about men, how suddenly their erections aren't as good, suddenly they're not holding their stamina as much. Right? What is it that we can do if we have, and I love this term that you use, a slow cooker versus an Instapot?
Yeah. So this question came up with several of my clients over the years, and here's the thing: regardless of what your partner is or isn't capable of, what do you need as the individual? And what does that look like to you, right? So, how can you warm up during the day? How can you be ready when it is time? I like flirting. I like walking by and just giving a little tap or a little touch. Women in general, I'm gonna, maybe I shouldn't say it like this, but from what I've worked with, tend to want a little more playing and lightness, and they need to feel sensual to be ready. Like they can't. I'm going to stop classifying this as a whole group of people, but people that I've worked with have a hard time just jumping in.
Yeah.
They kind of put their toe in the water. They want to test the temperature. They want to see if it feels right, right? So they need to warm up. And if your partner is someone who doesn't need to warm up, if they're just ready to go get it over with and move through the motions, that's what we take it as, then it makes us feel like they don't care, they don't contribute, right? And so, first off, that's an old trauma response, that's an old story. So, I'm going to call you out because I had to call myself out on this years ago. It's actually not about my partner, it's about me. It's about how comfortable I am in my body, what I'm willing to explore with myself, what I'm willing to do during the day to get myself there or be ready for it. So for me, it's contact. Like I'm not gonna jump on you when you walk in the door, but at some point I'm gonna walk by and I'm gonna give you a hug, give you a little squeeze. I'm gonna take a kiss. I'm gonna ask for a kiss, right? I need to make physical connection. So when the time is right, it's ready, right? So ladies, if you're finding yourself there, or men, sometimes it's the other way around. Try that. Try connecting first. Also, what is it that you want out of it? Is it connection or is it an orgasm? These are two different things, guys. Like,
Right.
connection is great, but a lot of us just want the orgasm. And so if it takes us a little bit longer to orgasm, what do you need? Right? Is it lube? Is it heating gel? Is it a vibrator? Is it more touching? Like, what do you need? And are you willing to talk with your partner about that, or offer that to yourself, or explore those things? Some people, that's super taboo. It's not allowed, right? And I've run into situations with couples as that as well. So I think it's a really delicate subject. Um, but I think it's all about, what are our intentions and what do you want? And you have to decide that in yourself first.
I love what you're saying because, I interviewed a few months ago a woman that used to be a sex worker, and she said that all the men that came to her that were married, it was never about how their wife looked. But women immediately go to their self-esteem, to their confidence. They think that if their husband doesn't want to have sex or if his libido is low, it's because of them. And they start taking it on to their appearance or to something they said or did or didn't do. We're very overthinkers as women most of the time. And like you said, feelers. And so I love what you're saying about really tuning into what it is that you want and you desire. And I want to add, what do you feel about yourself? And what
Mhm.
goes through your brain when you are facing quote unquote rejection? Because so many times from my experience, it's not him rejecting you. There's a lot of parts of you that are rejecting yourself. And also you're putting that vibe out into the world.
Yeah.
And he is picking up on that.
I think that's a great point. We're not going to get into too much woo and manifestation here, but really understanding that whatever you see, whatever you hear, is a reflection of what's inside of you. You can only see what you see, you can only hear what you hear. And so often we place the blame on the other person, or we point the finger because it's easy to try to hold someone else accountable for how we feel. But the reality is, if I'm not comfortable in my skin, I'm not comfortable in my skin. And it doesn't matter how many people say you're beautiful or you're amazing or whatever, you don't believe that if you don't believe that. So it is a self reflection first and foremost. I agree with that. And again, how we think and how we feel projects what we do. It predicts our action steps and then what we create, right? And so if I'm in a shitty mood, if I'm feeling bad about my body, if I'm self-conscious, that vibration, that energy is in me. And I'm going to push it on my person. I'm going to push it on the people around me. And they're just going to hold the mirror up and be like, yep, yep, yep. We're going to be a match for it. We're co creating everything. So I would say have fun. Get in your imagination, co-create what it would be like to enjoy sex with your person. What would it feel like to actually have your needs met all the way through? What would it look like if they did come home from work and you had that perfect connection when they walked in the door? See if you can start predicting that, visualizing it, feeling it in your nervous system. And when the resistance comes up, that's an opportunity for you to check in with yourself. Like, oh, that's stupid. I want to do that. He'll never change. So I'll never change. I don't want to do that, right?
Right.
It's so powerful to own our own stuff and really be empowered with what we want. And I think as women, it's time to just own the power of everything that we have going on here, right? Like, we push babies, like there's a lot
Exactly.
going on. This is a big deal. So own your femininity, own what you want, be that powerhouse. And if you don't know where to start, just start with thinking about what you would like and
Right.
just see how it unravels. Play with it. Be a little imaginative.
Yes, I love everything you're saying because I mean, I'm sure you have a testimony to this too, but the minute you do the work, it affects everyone and everything around you. And so many times when I work with women and they shift and change, their husbands shift and change too, just because you are the force. You are the life force of your family. And when you are connected and when you are tapped into your power, it affects everyone. And it's a ripple effect that you can't stop.
Totally agree. Totally agree. You're gonna put it out and it's gonna shift everything. We've
Yeah,
just not been taught how to do this.
right.
We've heard about it, but we've not been told how. So the how is just start with your imagination.
Yes,
Just start with how you want to feel. See if you can start to predict your future instead of assuming
right,
what could go wrong.
right. I just did this amazing masterclass with a coach named Melanie Ann Lear. I love her. And it was all about the game. And she said, so many of us, we play not to lose. What if you play to win? And I love
Mm,
that so much because so many of us, we're just trying to survive. What if you could win? What if you could thrive? What if your husband does love you and does want to have sex with you? And what if you can have amazing orgasms every night and
yeah,
together, right?
yeah,
What if? So tune
yeah.
into that and go do it.
Be open to possibility. My mentor always says, I'm willing to be surprised by what my mind has yet to see.
Oh, I love
I know it's my favorite. Like I have it everywhere. It's like, okay, I'm willing to be surprised. What's out there today? What have I not seen yet? What's available? Right. So I love those what ifs on the upside of the scale versus the negative side. The
that.
negative, it's a trauma response. Again, it's a survival tactic. It's not wrong. We all have it. But what if you could just turn to the right a little bit and see what else is there? Like just,
Yeah, shift it.
yeah,
It's just how you view things. It's just a point of view. I always tell
yeah.
my clients, it's just the point of view. You shift the point of view, new things show up. So, if we want to know more about you, where can we find you?
Yeah. More, I'm on all social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all those guys. You can look up under Monique the Mind Body Coach, and you should be able to find me as that handle on any platform. Um, and yeah, let's talk. If you have questions or this is showing up in your family and it's affecting things, it's a big deal. Connection is so important. And when we don't feel connected, that pain gets passed down. And I was sick of it being passed down in my family. I
Yeah,
watched it happen generation after generation, and I just said no more. So if you're the person who's ready to say no more or you just have questions, let's
reach
totally
out.
chat. Yeah.
Yes, reach out to Monique. She's amazing. And as you can tell, her energy, her heart, her soul, it's all there to serve you and to help you overcome, these hurdles and to stop the pain in your family and to stop the cycle of abuse. And the more of us do this work, the more magic will show up in our world. And these conversations will just shift into how amazing you are and how amazing you could be than what you have to deal with. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me today. This was amazing. I hope you guys took so much home. I hope you were writing down all the gold nuggets that Monique dropped because there was a ton of them. And if not, just re-listen. And I just want to thank you again for being here with me. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you take all of this and go have some amazing sex.
Heck yeah.
Thanks you, and we'll tune in with you next week. Bye.
Thanks more. Bye.